In today's video, I'm taking a look at this PC card from RISC PC. Yeah, I've been having a look at the modules and various memory modules that I've got in my sort of collection, and I noticed this one as I was coming to bag it up. That looks like the components are not looking in quite the best shape, really. So definitely it's due for a recap. Especially this one down here nearest to the sort of camera. So I've got myself some new flux, and this stuff is it's quite liquidy. Never used it before, but yeah, as you'll see as we go through this video, it's actually working really well. So I'm really impressed with this stuff. So whereas before I would syringe a bit of flux on around the contact ports on this capacitor, I've actually just covered it in this liquid stuff. So yeah, this is the first time giving it a try, and yeah, we'll get some heat on. So the heat's around about 350 degrees, and you'll see it doesn't take long for this little thing to pop off. So give it a bit of equal heat on both sides. So I don't actually know if this card actually works. I've not yet got a working RISC PC out on the bench to give it a test. So I just thought, well, there's only 3 capacitors on it, so this won't take long, so I'll just do it anyway. So even if it works or not, it doesn't really matter. So there we go, it's starting to loosen off now. Just a bit more heat and that thing will come straight off. So you can see that, yeah, that has been leaking a little bit. You've got the pads, possibly looking a bit unclean. You've got some sort of reaction slightly around that small resistor, just on the left of where the brush is, just there. So yeah, it's due a bit of a cleanup. Yeah, you can see that the tip on that soldering iron is not great. It's almost worn out. I'm going to be changing that fairly soon, but for now it should be fine. So we're just going to use it to wick away the old solder off there, give the pads a bit of a clean up. Yeah, so you can see it's it's not fantastic. It's a bit cleaner, so I'm going to come in with the IPA now, give it a bit of a squirt, good brushing. So yeah, another close up, looking a bit better this time. So we'll go ahead and put the capacitor on now. So just add a little bit of new solder to the pads. And yeah, sorry, that's a bit of a jump cut there. The new capacitor's now kind of put in place on one side. So yeah, I tried using the heat to heat both of the new solder pads up and then basically drop the capacitor on, and yeah, that didn't work at all. Yeah, don't really know why, it just wouldn't stick. So yeah, I went with just putting the capacitor down on one side and using the soldering iron to warm that side up, and then move it around and yeah, just heat it up on the other side again. So yeah, that's the way I went with the rest of the capacitors on this board. yeah. Here I am just cleaning up the joins a little bit. So using the flux, then just a quick dab with the solder 9 just gets those joints just a bit more molten and just a nicer join. So they're nice and shiny now. So we're just going to move around the board, and yeah, you need to note the orientation of these as you're taking them off, just to make sure you put them on right. There is a plus on the board, I noticed, but yeah, it's much easier just to remember the where the black the black mark is on the capacitor and make sure it's the same when you replace it. Each one of these on this board is actually in a different rotation. So as with the first one, we're just going to heat it up again and yeah, let the flux and the heat work the join and then pop them off. So I was quite surprised to find this card in this kind of condition, really. I've not particularly found any of the kind of like modules or memory modules for the Acorn or for any other machine like the Amiga, Commodore Amiga, to be quite in this state, really. Unless it's got a battery on, of course. But yeah, these capacitors really didn't look that great. And I've got about 3 of these in my collection. This one, the i486. The other 2 are slightly different. I think they're some kind of DX processor. I'll have to get back into the collection now and have a quick look. But yeah, I don't know if this one's seen a bit more action and the capacitors have just failed a bit quicker, or don't know, not quite sure why. But if I'd left this just sitting there on my shelf, then yeah, they would have continued to do some more damage, because you can see the pads are, they're not quite right there. There is a bit of corrosion, so I think we caught it just in time. So as before, now we're just putting a bit of solder on the pads, and then yeah, I'll use the solder 9 to put one side of the capacitor on and then heat the other side. So yeah, just a quick jump cut there. That's the capacitor now on in place, and just give it a quick clean, make sure all the flux is off and the join's good. Then moving on to the final one, same process. So I did look at the blue capacitors next to these electrolytics. They don't look great, but they're not leaking. So I decided to leave those alone for the moment. But when they start to go, you can see the kind of like the clear plastic film that wraps around them starts to just degrade a little bit and start to peel. And I think at least one of them on this board is maybe starting to do that. So, but I don't have any of those capacitors in my collection at the moment. I've only got the bigger blue ones for the actual A5000 board, so I'm gonna have to buy those in. But as I say, they're not looking at the moment, so that's not a concern. So I'll be zooming in a second to have a look at the area where I've just taken that capacitor off. But actually the most notable thing is actually the condition of the blue capacitor next to it. You can see the film that's wrapped around the body of it is actually starting to peel off. So that looks like it's either started to expand a little bit, and that's why it's cracked the outer sort of shell. Definitely needs replacing, so I'm going to get some of those on order and come back in on this one. But for the moment, yeah, we're just going to carry on with the fixing up the electrolytic one just here. So same again, putting the new one on, get a bit of solder on the pads, and then we'll yeah, just put the new one in place. So whereas before you didn't see me actually putting the capacitor in place, yeah, my phone was actually not recording very well and kept stopping. I managed to miss those sequences. This one you'll see me actually putting it on, so you'll see the technique I'm using for the soldering iron on one side then the other. So we're just going to place the capacitor over the pads, warming up a little bit, and then drop one side on. There we go. Let that cool down. Then rotate around. It's actually quite difficult because the camera's right in front of my face here, so. But yeah, using the pliers in one hand, just press the capacitor down whilst the solder heats up. And turn around and just make sure the join on the other side's good again. Okay, and then just to make sure the flow's good, put a bit of solder on. Fantastic stuff this is, I'm really quite impressed with this. That's really making these joins go really well. There we go, so that one's done, then just yeah, finally this side. So that'll do for this video. This board is now recapped, certainly for the SMDs. I'll come back in and do the blue ones at some point. But yeah, that's it. See you in the next one. Thanks.